Alright, so for today's video, I figured we would talk about rulings. I haven't done a ruling video in quite a while, and I'm really passionate about them, so I think we're gonna have a lot of fun today. If you're into rulings, please share your thoughts in the comments and like the video if you enjoy it, as well as chime in with your interesting rulings that maybe all of us have to know for this format. Because the 5 we're gonna be discussing today, I think are really essential. We have a couple SP rulings and then some other stuff as well. So getting right into it, the first SP Little Knight ruling is just going to be fairly basic. So it is going to be SP versus banishing tokens. You can banish tokens or attempt to banish tokens with SP because the only thing the tokens cannot be banished as is face down. And since SP doesn't banish face down, you are able to banish the token, but it is going to just disappear. It will not return in the end phase. And then the second monster that you're banishing, maybe that's an SP that activated the effect, is just going to return to the field because the effect is still trying to resolve as much as possible. So there is that. The token is going to be just disappearing, basically. And moving on to another ruling, we're going to be talking about Sky Crisis. So I have it pulled up over here because I want to read the important part of the effect, which is that you get to special summon it by, you can also exceed summon this card by using one monster you control with the highest attack, your choice if tied. And the important thing is that if your monster with the highest attack is not able to be used for the summon because of whatever effect or restriction, you're actually not allowed to summon the Sky Crisis. Now, one of the, logical solutions would be to just summon it on top of the second biggest attack monster, but you cannot actually do that. If you cannot use the specific monster you would have to use, you cannot summon Sky Crisis. So that's an interesting one. And moving on to another SP ruling, this one is just going to be about battling. And I actually want to pull up SP. I should have done this beforehand, but let's just do it like this. So it is worded in an interesting way. If this card is link summoned using a Fusion Synchro X was your link monster's material, you can target one card on the field or in either grave, banish it. Also, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn. Now, some people will say that you cannot attack directly, and then after attacking, summon SP and attempt to use the effect. Some people will say that you can attack directly and then also use the effect after attacking. So I want to know what you think. You can answer before you hear the actual explanation from me. But what the answer is that you can actually attack first and then use SP. And it's pretty much the word also is the most important part of this, and it's pretty much worded in a way where it would be the same if it just said for the rest of this turn you cannot attack directly, and if it said that, it would make sense that you can attack directly beforehand and then use the effect. But because it is not worded that way, it can be a little bit confusing. Essentially, the word also, like I said, is really important. It is just making this into an effect as opposed to a condition. And a good example would be Brand of Fusion, where you're always going to be locked no matter if it gets negated. And that's just because it's completely different. And if you haven't attacked directly, you're still going to be able to do it if the card gets negated. And if it doesn't get negated, you're still able to attack directly before using the actual effect. So that's important to keep in mind. And the next ruling we have is just a little bit more complicated. So essentially, how does Terahertz work versus or with Jammer? And it's really funny because Update Jammer just gives you a second attack. It means that you have the ability, your monster has the ability to attack a second time. And if Terahertz send a couple monsters and now has 2 to 3 attacks because of the attributes, do the attacks stack or what actually happens? And since I said that Jammer just gives you the ability to have a second attack, this actually means that the attacks do not stack. So if your Terahertz would have 2 to 3 attacks by itself anyway, then the Jammer part of the effect just makes it so it has all of these attacks granted to it. It's a little bit confusing, but essentially how those things work is that the most optimal situation and the most optimal scenario is what is always going to prevail. So the most optimal thing would be for Terahertz to have the biggest amount of attacks as possible, but since Jammer does not make it so they stack, it's just going to have its actual attacks. And since we're on the topic of the better scenario, what happens if you may be already attacked directly? Then with Terahertz, you wouldn't be able to gain all of these additional attacks because it can only attack multiple times on monsters. But that's where the better scenario comes into play, because Jammer would still give it the ability to have a second attack. So if you already attack directly, Terahertz is still going to have the second attack granted to it, but it's not going to be because of its effect, but because of Update Jammer. So they will not stack, but the better scenario will always prevail. It's a little weird, but I think it's really intriguing. So there's that. And as for the last effect, it's going to be another one on SP. I just figured we have to talk about it. It's such an amazing card in this meta, and we need to know everything about it because it's actually like, it just has a lot of rulings when it comes to SP, which is kind of funny, but we need to be familiar with all of them. So what happens with SP versus effects that would temporarily take control or take control forever of the opponent's monster, and then you would use SP and actually get that monster off of the field. So once it returns in the end phase, to which field will it go to? And with temporarily banished monsters, they will forget that their control was taken. So they will still return to the side of the field of the player that activated the SP effect and banished the monsters. So the player that took control of them, they will return there, but they will immediately switch the control back to the actual original owner of the card. And with effects that would like take control forever, like Monster Reborn, for example, they will still return to the field of the player that activated the Reborn. So it doesn't matter that they're not an original owner, the card will still return to them. And that's pretty much it. Just a quick video with a couple interesting rulings that hopefully come in handy in the future. And if you have any other cool rulings, I would love to read about them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video and got something from it, please give it a like and let me know. Also ding the bell so you are always notified when I post new videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.